Welcome to Democracy. Now, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As the U.S.-Israel war on Iran enters its sixth week, President Trump's warning he'll bomb Iranian power plants and bridges by Tuesday if Iran does not reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump's threats, which would constitute war crimes, came in a profanity-laced Truth Social post on Easter Sunday, in which the president wrote, quote, "Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah," President Trump wrote, using the word. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Naval Command said in a social media post overnight the Strait of Hormuz, quote, "will never return to its former state, especially for America and Israel," unquote.
That's crazy, huh?
Just this morning, Iranian state media is reporting Majid Khatami, the intelligence chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, was killed in a joint U.S.-Israeli strike. Iran's Fars news agency also reports the U.S.-Israeli coalition struck the South Pars petrochemical facility linked to the world's largest natural gas field, accounting for 70 to 80% of Iran's gas supply. In Israel, an Iranian missile hit a residential building in Haifa, killing at least 4 people.
Haifa.
Iran's retaliatory attacks across the Gulf continue with power, water desalination, and oil plants hit in Kuwait and an oil facility targeted in Bahrain. Separately, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says he's revoked the U.S. residency of the niece and grandniece of the late Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani. Meanwhile, U.S. Navy SEALs on Saturday rescued the Air Force colonel.
What the fuck are they going to do? That's crazy, right?
Whose F-15E aircraft was shot down over Iran on Friday. It's the first confirmed loss of an American warplane over Iranian territory since the war began. It comes as residents of Mashhad are reporting difficulty breathing due to chemical pollution from U.S. and Israeli bombardment of the city's petrochemical factories Saturday.
Oh, that's
Iran
another
says the strikes on the
avenue of
Mashhad
this war.
petrochemical zone killed 5 people and wounded 170 others. On the same day, at least 1 person was killed in a projectile strike near the Bushehr nuclear power plant in southwest Iran. The U.S.
That's like another avenue of this war, right? Like all the smoke and oil being burned. You already like seen like scenes of it, black rain. That is crazy. Like the ecological ramifications of this pointless war will be felt across many decades from now. I think something similar happened in Operation Dust Storm. We could maybe watch something on that later. But it's not good.
US-based human rights activist news agency says over 3,500 people have been killed in Iran since the war erupted, including at least 244 children.
That shit's coming down.
This is Haddad, a resident of Tehran.
They threatened a lot. Now, the infrastructure they threatened, they first gave a 5-day deadline, then a 10-day deadline, meaning there's still no news. They haven't been able to do anything. We defend our country. It's not like we want to abandon our country. Now, it's true that some people are with different coverings. I myself don't have a complete hijab, but I will never hand over my homeland to a people who are strangers to our country.
Israeli strikes across Lebanon Sunday killed at least 39 people as Israeli troops pushed deeper into southern Lebanon. Israel's ordered the expansion of its so-called buffer zone from the Litani River to areas north of the Zahrani River, displacing about 1/5 of Lebanon's population. Since Israel launched its war against Hezbollah on March 2nd, more than 1,400 people have been killed in Lebanon, including 126 children. This is Jamaat Salim Farhan, who's now homeless after Israeli strikes on Tyre left his neighborhood in ruins.
Someone who can barely afford their daily bread can't even buy a loaf, and then a plane comes and strikes? For what reason? Just because I'm sitting on my land? I will not leave. This is our land, and we will not give it up.
In Gaza, an Israeli drone fired 2 missiles at a group of civilians in Gaza City Sunday, killing 4 people, according to Palestinian health officials. The Gaza Health Ministry reports Israel's killed more than 700 people since last October's so-called ceasefire. On Sunday, Palestinians held a funeral in Gaza City for those killed in the Israeli airstrike.
You leave home and neither you nor your children are safe. Everyone says goodbye to the other before stepping foot outside the house, whether one is going out for errands, school, looking for water, looking for a livelihood. You tell me about a ceasefire, calm, entry of aid, opening markets. All of these are lies, 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 and ink on paper, if there is paper in the first place.
Israeli police forcibly dispersed an anti-war protest in Tel Aviv Saturday, arresting 17 people, even after Israel's high court ruled the demonstration could proceed. Hundreds of Israelis gathered to protest the government's war on Iran, with the court permitting a rally of more than 600 people. Police still moved to break up the protests, citing Iranian missile threats, and remove protesters from the square. Protests also took place in Haifa and Jerusalem.
They need to literally march and fucking grab these motherfuckers by the balls.
We'll go to Tel Aviv to speak with an organizer of Saturday's anti-war protests in Israel. We'll talk to activist Alon Green, who was arrested. We'll speak to him just before he goes to court.
Executed, bro.
Iranian intelligence agents arrested prominent human rights lawyer Nasrin Sotoudeh at her home in Tehran. Her daughter, Meraveh Khandan, confirmed on Thursday. 64-year-old Sotoudeh, intelligence agent, was arrested. We'll speak to him just before he goes to court. Iranian intelligence agents arrested prominent human rights lawyer Nasrin Sotoudeh at her home in Tehran. Her daughter, Meraveh Khandan, confirmed on Thursday. 64-year-old Sotoudeh is renowned for defending activists, opposition politicians, and women prosecuted for removing their headscarves and has been imprisoned multiple times. She was recently sentenced to 33 years in prison and 148 lashes in 2019. She was out on bail for health reasons at the time of her arrest. Her husband, Reza Khandan, also a well-known activist, is currently held in Tehran's Evin prison.
That's crazy.
The University of Washington has demoted an Iranian-American international studies professor after he criticized U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran and condemned Israeli settler colonialism. Arya Fani will remain an associate professor at the UW-Jackson School of International Studies, but will no longer serve as director of its Middle East Center. After he criticized U.S.-Israeli attacks on an Iranian-American international studies professor, after he criticized U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran and condemned Israeli settler colonialism. Arefani will remain an associate professor at the UW-Jackson School of International Studies, but will no longer serve as director of its Middle East Center. He told the Seattle Times, quote, "There's a chilling effect on not just my academic freedom, but that of my colleagues. Anyone who dares to speak out against the war and against aggression," he said.
Yeah, that happened here in the U.S. Take that for what it is. It's freedom of speech suppression. That's just wow. I gotta mess with this brightness, bro. I don't like it. Is it contrast? Oop. Oop. No, brightness. Maybe 7. Is there like there isn't. Just a little too bright, you know? And I don't want to close this. But then this is 18. -10. Maybe like an 8. There's no like shadow. There's no shadow thingy. What the hell?
Louisiana, federal immigration agents entered the Fort Polk military base and detained the wife of an Army staff sergeant just days after their wedding. 22-year-old Annie Ramos was born in Honduras and brought to the United States as a toddler. In late March, she married 23-year-old Matthew Blank in a ceremony in Houston as Blank prepares for an overseas deployment.
Isn't that crazy,
in Texas,
bro?
a lawsuit alleges a 3-year-old girl separated from her mother after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border was sexually abused in a foster home where she'd been placed by immigration officials. The girl's father says he tried unsuccessfully for months to be reunited with his daughter. He says he only learned of the abuse after he filed a habeas petition in federal court. In Wisconsin, federal immigration agents jailed the president of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee after accusing him of lying on his green card application. Salah Sassour is a Palestinian-born 53-year-old who has lived in the United States since 1993. He became a lawful permanent resident nearly 30 years ago. The U.S. accuses him of failing to disclose a conviction by the Israeli armed forces when he was a teenager living in the occupied West Bank. Sarsour says he never understood the charges the Israeli military presented against him in Hebrew and that he was tortured in Israeli custody. The Muslim Legal Fund of America is representing Sarsour in court. In a statement, the group said, quote, "It's difficult to believe that DHS's position now is not rooted in a violation of his First Amendment right to speak out about the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank," unquote. President Trump has proposed cutting tens of millions of dollars of funding to the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, while privatizing security screenings at smaller airports. Trump's proposal, detailed in the White House's 2027 budget proposal, comes as the ongoing partial government shutdown at the Department of Homeland Security is now in its 8th week. The TSA was created in 2001. After private airport security contractors failed to prevent the 9/11 attacks, which saw hijackers carry box cutters, mace, and knives through metal detectors. President Trump is asking Congress for $152 million to reopen Alcatraz as a high-security federal prison.
Not Rebirth
The
Island.
request appears in the White House's proposed fiscal year 2027 budget and would cover the first year of costs to rebuild the prison. Alcatraz closed in 1963 due to high operating costs and has been a national park since 1972. House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi said, quote, "Rebuilding Alcatraz into a modern prison is a stupid notion that would be nothing more than a waste of taxpayer dollars and an insult to the intelligence of the American people," she said. Burkina Faso.
This is literally just a fucking waste of money. Like, what are we doing? No one needs that. No one's asking for that. This, goddamn, like,
His military ruler has called on people in his nation to reject democratic rule, telling a state broadcaster, quote, "We must tell the truth. Democracy isn't for us," unquote. The interim president, Ibrahim Traoré, seized power in a 2022 military coup, toppling another coup regime that overthrew a democratically elected government just 8 months earlier. Traoré previously promised democratic elections in 2024 before extending his rule until 2029. Speaking to reporters last week, he said, quote, "Wherever Western powers try to establish democracy in the world, it's always accompanied by bloodshed," unquote. A report from Human Rights Watch accuses Burkina Faso's military and its allied militias of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity for participating in violence that's killed more than 1,800 civilians while forcibly displacing tens of thousands. And in Colorado, about 3,800 workers at the world's largest meat processing company are returning to work following the first major labor strike in the U.S. meatpacking industry in over 40 years. Members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 7 walked off the job in mid-March to protest unfair and dangerous labor conditions at the JBS plant in Greeley. They're looking to address low wages, a lack of personal protective gear, and discrimination against the slaughterhouse's majority immigrant workforce. The union agreed to call off the strike after JBS agreed to a new round of contract talks set to resume on Thursday. To see our coverage of JBS, go to democracynow.org. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
if you ask me, nobody asked me, but this country is falling apart. We don't feel it yet, but you know what it feels like? It feels like, you know how in the movies of like an asteroid hits the ocean and then the waves are just coming and they're taking like New York or whatever? That's what it feels kind of like. Like we're like on the far side of New York and we haven't felt really anything but like the gas prices. I just don't know. I don't know. I know we know what needs to be done, but we have nobody representing us up there. The Democrats are completely useless. Like they're I mean, I don't know what's the hope. The midterms, is that what's gonna get us out of this? I don't know. I don't fucking think so, man. Nope. News. All right, let's see. I don't know why I really like MSN now. It says that they're centrist, but I don't know. Rick Stengel, America's reputation may never recover from Trump and his war in Iran. I hope we don't recover, bro. A deranged lunatic Democrat slammed President Trump for profane. Let's watch this because this was funny.
Joining us now, MS Now congressional reporter Michael Schnell. Susan Page is USA Today's Washington bureau chief. Stuart Stevens was chief strategist for Mitt Romney's 2012 presidential campaign and is a senior advisor to the Lincoln Project. Susan, raising the specter of the 25th Amendment and replacing a president hasn't been seriously talked about really since the Nixon era. Is this talk serious now?
Well, the 25th Amendment is designed to be
presidential campaign and is a senior advisor to the Lincoln Project. Susan, raising the specter of the 25th Amendment and replacing a president hasn't been seriously talked about really since the Nixon era. Is this talk serious now?
Well, the 25th Amendment is designed to be difficult to do. It would require the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to make a written declaration to Congress that the president was no longer able to carry out his duties. And if the president protested, you'd have to have 2/3 of the House and Senate affirm that he was not capable. So that's a bar that seems very unlikely to be met, starting with the Vice President Vance leading that way. I think it is more of a talking point for Democrats than it is for an actual threat of action. If Democrats are really serious about it, they could win back the House in November and talk about impeachment. But until then, the 25th Amendment, as I said, I think more of a talking point.
So, Stuart, former Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene says, quote, everyone in Trump's administration that claims to be a Christian needs to fall on their knees and beg forgiveness from God and stop worshiping the president and intervene in Trump's madness. He has gone insane and all of you are complicit. Maybe a better question beyond the 25th Amendment is
how does this crazy psychotic MAGA lady, how is she making more sense than most Democrats? Huh? What else does he need to do? Does he need to murder somebody on live TV? This is the craziest timeline, I swear.
See more current congressional Republicans questioning that the threats and the actions that the president is taking in regard to Iran.
Man, I wish I could say I did, but I don't. It's extraordinary to wake up and be agreeing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way. But she's calling this exactly right. Look, with the 25th Amendment, I just got to say, if you were teaching a course on the 25th Amendment, and you said, okay, what if you woke up on Easter and the President of the United States was threatening major war crimes against a huge country using profanity? Would that be evidence?
I think,
pretty much the class would go, yeah, that'll never happen, but sure, of course. Look, I think that Republicans made this deal with the devil. And what they forget about Mephistopheles is not only does he not deliver, not only does he take your soul, but he doesn't deliver. So they're headed for a disaster.
He's fucking crazy. 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution ratified in 1967 following President Kennedy's assassination establishes a clear procedure for presidential succession, vice presidential vacancies, and handling presidential incapacities. It ensures continuity in executive power, allowing for voluntary transfer during surgeries or involuntary removal, blah, 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 blah. Season 1, Section 1, succession. What does it actually say? Oh my gosh, it's like a whole thing. In case of the removal of the president from office, of his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. Section 2. Oh, in case of his removal from death. Whenever there's a vacancy in the office of the president, of the vice president, the president shall nominate the vice president, who shall take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both houses. Whenever the president transmits to the president. What the fuck is all this, bro? Ratified by the states in the aftermath of the assassination of Kennedy, provides the procedures to replace the president or vice president. But what's like it called, you know? the president or vice president, case of death, removal, resignation, or incapacitation. The Watergate scandal of the 70s saw the application of these procedures when Gerald Ford replaced Spiro Agnew as vice president. What was that? When he replaced Richard Nixon as president, and when Nelson Rockefeller failed.
Now that should be a disaster. It is the best thing that could happen for the country. I say that as someone who worked in the Republican Party for years. But this president is truly out of control. And what is the most extraordinary thing about that message is not that he wanted to send it, but that there was no one there who could stop him. And I think that just speaks to the level of chaos inside the White House and the administration.
Well, let me take it to Capitol Hill. Michael, the profane threats come during federal budget season. So how does war funding play into those conversations, and what are you hearing from lawmakers?
Yeah, well, Chris, one more note first on that Easter message from the president. It's been an onslaught of Democrats pushing back on the sentiment from the president, with far and few Republicans, Marjorie Taylor Greene being the biggest name, and she's not even in Congress anymore. But I will tell you, this morning I spoke to Congressman Don Bacon. He's a moderate Republican from Nebraska. He is retiring, and he did push back on some of the comments from President Trump. I asked him about that Truth Social post. He told me, quote, "We expect more from the president in setting a better example," specifically pointing to the profanities and the vulgar language on the president using the term Allah and the phrase praise be to Allah. He said, quote, "I don't think it's appropriate." And I pressed Don Bacon on this threat of action that could become war crimes. He said, quote, "There's mixed opinions on it. I got mixed feelings on it." So certainly a bit of a tepid pushback from a Republican, but something
praise be to
we have not
Allah
heard from many members of the GOP in response to that Sunday post from the president. But getting back to your initial question about war funding, there are rumors, reports that the Pentagon is going to be requesting about $200 billion to go towards the Iran war. And now, while there are going to be several Republicans who are ready to line up behind the president, some folks have questions, and they're saying that they want answers before they vote for any funding for this war. Take, for example, what Senator John Kennedy said. He has said, quote, "If our troops need more money, I want to give it to them, but I want to see the details. You got to show me the candy before I'll get in that car." Similar from Congressman Thomas Massie saying, quote, "It begs the question, how long do they expect the war to go on? It's been about $1 billion a day, and they want $200 billion. My quick math says they think this will go on for at least 6 months." So some Republicans not immediately quick to give the administration what it wants. And this is all significant because there are discussions among Republicans amid this Democratic opposition of passing this Iran war funding through a process that's known as budget reconciliation. Essentially, it allows Republicans to circumvent that Democratic opposition. But as a byproduct, it requires near unanimity from all Republicans.
We know that in both the House
and the Senate, Republicans are hanging on to their majorities by a very slim thread. This is already hitting the campaign trail. There are some Republicans who are saying that they want to see cuts in other areas of the government to pay for this Iran war funding. That already receiving some pushback. For example, take a look at what former Congressman Mike Rogers said, who's running for Senate in the state of Michigan. He said this is not the way, in response to a story about cutting health care for paying for this Iran war funding. He continues by saying our priority needs to be making life more affordable for working families, from health care to housing, not making cuts at the expense of American people. While I'm all for cutting waste funding.
That has never been a priority of the Republican Party, at least. Again, Democrats may have given us crumbs, but as far as the Republican Party, that's never been a priority.
Abuse, this is a bridge too far. So, Chris, all of that to be said, a lot of divisions, concerns in the Republican Party about not just Iran and what the president and the administration is doing in the region, but also this potential funding that can come down the pipe soon. A lot more discussions to keep an eye on as this conflict continues to unfold.
Yeah, and I guess part of the question, Stuart, is going to be whether Massie and Kennedy are going to stand alone, or if some of the folks who are in tough races, who are in purple districts, who are getting a good challenge, may decide that they need to say something and maybe take a page of affordability and not give the president what he wants.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I just got to say there's something extraordinary about Senator Kennedy basically making a pedophile joke about funding the war in Iran. It sort of brings together the Epstein files and the war in Iran, that unless he gets the money, showing the candy to get in the car. I think it shows where this party is.
What the
He's
fuck?
always been colorful. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of ways to go.
I didn't even make the
I think
connection.
Freud might have something to say about that. Look, I think the threshold here is once somebody helps inspire a mob to come into your workplace and try to kill you, and you're still okay with that, are we really kidding ourselves that there's going to be some line of policy here that they're going to cross? Like, that's too much on the law of the sea treaty, or, no. Republicans bought into this. And if they're not going to stand up to somebody who physically was threatening them with the supporters, for heaven's sakes, no. And we've never seen a collapse of a party like this, certainly in modern history. And I can't tell you when it's going to end.
You know, Susan, I'm sure you've been following some of the polls, and you see the movements in the races that are going to decide certainly control of the House and some pretty tight ones in the Senate as well. I wonder if you think there's a point essentially in the midterm calendar, and maybe we haven't reached it yet, where Republicans are going to, especially again in swing districts, reevaluate blanket support.
You know, I think a lot of Democrats and independents and traditional Republicans have been waiting for that moment for some time with Donald Trump. And one reason I think we haven't reached it yet and may never reach it, not even before the midterms, is that that for a lot of these Republican candidates, it's kind of an existential choice between defying President Trump and having him come down on you in a way that is very
unhelpful. I want to see
your
more
reelection,
often, man.
or breaking.
No shade to these people, I guess. But I want to see younger people being asked these questions. I want to see younger people having these conversations, and by younger I mean like under 50. You know, not that these people, if there's anything wrong, I'm sure their POV is legitimate. I just want to see younger people
with him, which is something very few Republicans have chosen to do. I mean, here we're discussing whether Republican members of Congress will stand up to President Trump on funding the war in Iran. They have not yet had a hearing, a single hearing in Congress in the past month about what we're doing in Iran, what our goals are, what the future of that war is.
Crazy.
So I guess I would not hold my breath, Chris.
That's fucking nuts. Brother. He is increasingly desperate. F-bomb and blasphemy. Trump's unhinged Iran.
This morning, the President of the United States posted to Truth Social the vulgar post I'm sure you have seen by now with an F-bomb and a quote, "Praise be to Allah." Now compare that to another president who led America through a war, Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural, ending with these words, "With malice towards none, with charity for all." It's quite a stark difference, which brings us to a part of the Constitution most Americans have never had reason to think about. Section 4 of the 25th Amendment.
Why am I only getting MSN now,
Excuse me,
bro?
the vice
I
president
hate when
and the
they do
majority of the
this
cabinet
shit.
decide the president is unable to do the job. They can notify Congress, and the vice president takes over as acting president immediately. It has never been used in American history before, and it's an extremely high bar to get there. But this morning, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy posted this online, quote, "If I were in Trump's cabinet, I would spend Easter calling constitutional lawyers about the 25th Amendment." And our next guest writes this, quote, "I wonder very much what the next few days will bring, because this is looking like basically a president who is losing it, and unfortunately losing it in a way that can really make the world a much worse place very fast." Joining us now is Paul Krugman, a Nobel laureate, research professor of economics at CUNY's Graduate Center and author of the Paul Krugman Substack. Paul, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you for making time for us. Give us the explanation behind how you got to that conclusion and made that point about what is going to happen in the next few days and why it could be so dangerous, not just for America, but for the world.
Okay, first thing to say is that these two posts and some other things that Trump has said in interviews in the last few days, they are completely unhinged. They are, before we get into his mental state, let's just say that he is now threatening violence against innocent civilians because he's unable to get what he wants militarily. And we have a name for people who use violence against innocent people because they don't have because they're too weak to get what they want militarily.
Tyrants.
We call them terrorists.
Oh,
so, you know, I've been looking at the definitions, ICE's definition of terrorism, and what the President of the United States has been saying the past couple of days really fits the definition of terrorism as his own officials write it down. So this is horrifying. And the reason I'm saying 25th Amendment and all that is the instability. I mean, just a few days ago, he was saying, "Oh, we've won, and we don't need to open the Strait of Hormuz. That's up to other people." And then,
You know why he says these things and he's so confident saying it just every weekend? Because nobody's gonna do shit. Nobody's sitting there telling him, "Don't do this." He doesn't get any. This is the extent of the pushback that he gets from saying these crazy things, from truthing, writing on fucking social media. There's no consequences. Who's gonna tell him something, or who's gonna do something? People can talk all they want. Oh, we're gonna impeach you. We're gonna, 25th Amendment. He's a terrorist. Nobody who has any fucking power is doing anything. Not Congress, not FBI. I mean, FBI is, that's why he's able to get away with these things, because there's no consequences besides this, just chatter.
Now, just a couple of days later, he's saying, wow, we're going to destroy Iran's power plants and its bridges. We're going to bomb them back into the Stone Ages. He's using turns of phrase that are very unlike him. I mean, the first post said, glory be to God. The second one concluded, Allah Akbar. This doesn't... Either he's having major personality disorder, or somebody else is largely writing it. So this is really horrifying. And this is to have somebody who is that unhinged and unstable in control of the armed forces of the United States is a really horrifying thing.
And this
Paul,
one.
you mentioned Tim Snyder's argument that much of this.
Oh, since we
Jesus Christ, bro. 1, 2, 3.
last spoke, the Trump administration is firing top officials left, right, and center. Body camera footage from the Tiger Woods that he was calling Donald Trump after he crashed. Scary ass looking red skies are being seen in even more countries. Lego have put together the most goated but equally expensive ad ever. The US has made history by charging record-breaking prices to watch the World Cup. And one of the most insane scams is coming out of Mount Everest. Who would have thought? All of that and so much more. So let's stop the yapping, get subscribing, and let's go.
Why does it sound like shit?
Okay, just as a head note before we start this video, in the last video, we kicked off the greatest giveaway in News Daddy history. We are giving away 1 PS5 Pro and 2 Unlucky Cloud hoodies. If you want to enter, instructions are in the description. You still have time, and we will announce the winner in next Thursday's episode. Good luck! Okay, kicking it off as usual for the entire duration of this war. Moving on. Also, since we last spoke, we have got a crazy update from the Sophie Rain versus Florida politician situation. Now, for the regulars, you'll know what's going on, but for those who don't, essentially a Republican politician named James Fishback. Yes, we've had many a laugh about his surname in previous episodes, but he said that if he was elected as governor, he will push for 50% tax in addition to the any regular tax earned by all OnlyFans creators in Florida. He then said that he will take this money that he's taken from them and put it into schools and pay teachers better and provide better school lunches. Now, when we've covered this story previously, we did kind of somewhat conclude that this was a big old, it's kind of like marketing, but for politicians, because it's a very, very unrealistic proposal. But James Fishback, he is standing by it, and also one of the major OF creators that he singled out was apparently one of the biggest, Sophie Rain. And fast forward a couple of months, they are now at the point where they're actually actively debating each other on Piers Morgan. And while the whole thing was, it's an interesting conversation to watch, there's one portion I'd like to play for you where Piers Morgan absolutely cooks Mr. Fishback. I mean, he cooked him so hard that even Mr. Fishback laughed. And the roast was at his expense. You know it's brutal.
If you want to keep doing this, then we're going to take 50% of what you earn and we're going to use it to raise public school teacher pay. Our public school teachers are not getting paid enough. We're going to use this as a resource to fund the empowerment of young women who have signed up to do something dignified, with all due respect, unlike you, and be a public school teacher, educating, inspiring.
Bro, props to her, bro. She's out there fighting for her fucking check.
You know what, James? You know what? Here's what I would say. I've got to end this debate. Here's what I would say. I've listened to both of you, and you've both made good points. But honestly, that last statement you made was so pompous and patronising. Honestly, who are you to be the great moral arbiter of what young women do with themselves legally in the United States? Who are you to say if you become governor, you're going to take half her money in a state where they don't have even state income tax? It's like there's a real arrogance to this, that you've decided you are the moral arbiter of every Floridian. And it may be why you're trailing so badly in the polls. And Sophie, the good news for you is don't worry about it, because he's not going to win. So you're not going to end up giving Mr. Fishback any money for his plans, much as it would be great to put more money into teachers in public schools. Of course it would be. But it won't be coming from you, Sophie Rain, because he ain't going to win.
Yeah, I ain't going to lie. That one was pretty crazy. But ultimately, let me know what you guys think about this situation. Are you on the side of what Piers Morgan said and Sophie Rain? Or do you agree with Mr. Fishback and he's got your vote, if obviously you're in Florida? Put it in the comments, but for now, moving on. Also, next up, we have got to talk about it. It's so big that I'm referring to it as it. The most goated ad potentially ever. And as soon as you see it, the first thing that came to my mind was, boy, how much did they spend on getting 4 of the main GOATs in football? 2 ultimate GOATs, 2 current GOATs. Point is, a lot of GOATs. Can you just imagine what they charged Lego? Ronaldo, Messi, Mbappe, Vinicius, what? Especially if, Lego came to them and he said, this is our idea. You're going to be sat across from Messi. You're going to be sat from... They would charge them crazy amounts. The other question that I'd very much like to know, which none of this has been made public, is were they all sat around a table in person at the same time to shoot this ad? I know it's probably the answer is no, and they would just put them in after. But imagine that. I just like to dream. But here's the thing, no matter how much Lego spent on getting these 4 guys in for this ad, I think it's going to pay back tenfold because this has already got hundreds and hundreds of millions of views across all platforms. And not only that, but of course, this is to market their new upcoming Lego set for the World Cup, which is obviously, for the stuff that I've seen, already got fantastic feedback. So I'm sure they're making their money back. Moving on. Now, talking about huge amounts of money, well, that's what the US might owe a lot of people if everyone did this. A doctor named Shane Dunphy from New Zealand is not happy, one, about this war, but even more unhappy about the subsequent fuel prices. So much so that he has now sent an invoice to the US Embassy in Wellington, New Zealand, demanding $1,500 in compensation because the United States caused all of this price increase. He said the USA is responsible for this and therefore they should be held accountable. Now, what he is asking reimbursement for is that he provided all of the staff at his clinic with fuel vouchers so they can afford getting to and from work every day, despite the prices of fuel skyrocketing. Boy, you should see him in the UK.
It's because it's true, man. This guy decided to bomb a country that did nothing to no one outside of the country, right? We could talk about their domestic, policies and all the fuckery that's happening inside another time. This is outside and foreign, problems. But this guy decided to bomb a country that has a shit ton of power just because he felt like it and because of Israel. But it's just crazy to me to think that they could just get away with it. All these other countries are now struggling. All the people have to pay extra for their damn fuel and then for food and then for like other shit. Who's going to be held accountable? No one. It's so annoying, man. We need to have a worldwide fucking communist revolution, bro. Just fucking all these evil fucks, bro. Again, no one's going to pay for this. No one's going to be held accountable. The working class people of the world are the ones who are going to die and have to pay for this. So annoying. Fuck these guys.
Especially diesel, which is my car. Damn. And he didn't stop there because Dr. Shane is also encouraging other businesses to do the same. He said that he is expecting payment within 7 days. Now, he told The Guardian that he doesn't really expect to receive the money from the US Embassy, but he said that this sends a message and it's a matter of principle. So if Shane gets abducted in the middle of the night to go and stand trial in the US, wouldn't be surprised.
And trial.
Moving on. Also, on a similar note, the United States have just made history. For this year's World Cup, they are now charging nearly $11,000 for a ticket, general admission, to watch the final in New Jersey. Damn. You know what? That's not even just record-breaking for the World Cup. That is the most expensive general admission.
Wait, the final's going to be in New Jersey?
Ever. There's been more expensive, like VIP, you get this and you get that. This is general admission. You're just getting a seat. And that's not even the craziest part because I don't know if you guys have been to the US recently, but boy, it is so expensive just existing there, and let alone having to pay $11,000 for a ticket. But I guess if you're paying...
Current U.S. resident here, residing in Texas. Yeah. Yeah.
11,000 for a ticket to go watch the final. You're probably okay with money, but still, that is just going to be the most expensive World Cup to actually go to. And New York and New Jersey prices? Huh? And I mean, just for comparison, for those who don't know, the most expensive ticket in the last World Cup, Qatar, for the best seats in the final, $1,600. This is 11,000. So category 1 seats for the final this year will be $10,990.
And the crazy part is this is... Actually, I don't even know if it's legal, but whether it's legal or not, they're doing it. And again, no consequences. Just fucking... Just letting these people do what they want to do. And if people can afford it and they, you know, fill up the stadium,
two, which is obviously the seats behind it, 7,380. Category 3, 5,700. So just the whole thing is cooked. And I think a lot of Americans are saying in their minds, well, that's not that bad.
It's fucking
accused of running an insurance scam, right? According to local investigation, tourism companies and other parties are staging fake rescue operations to claim huge amounts of unlawful insurance money. And you're probably wondering, what do you mean fake rescue? Well, apparently this allegedly involves poisoning the tourists themselves, so they need rescues via helicopters. Yeah, so the local Kathmandu Post, who was originally the one that broke this story, so they say that these tour guides who take the hikers up the mountains, they'll stage this fake emergency.
I kind of want to watch that little interview there. I just think it's so cool that she's, you know, out there fighting for her right to shake ass. Like, maybe I can. Hold on, let me try and make a video. Oh, fuck, I gotta pee. Come on, you bitch.
But for those who don't, essentially a Republican politician.
Bro, she's
so... But he said that if he was elected as governor, he will push for 50% tax in addition to the, you know, any regular tax.
And we're going to use it to raise public school teacher pay. Our public school teachers are not getting paid enough. We're going to use this as a resource to fund the empowerment of young women who have signed up to do something dignified, with all due respect, unlike you, and be a public...
You know what? Again, kudos to her. She's out here trying to fight for her right to shake ass. Like, whether you agree with what she's doing doesn't fucking matter. Like, I don't even think that that's a whole other topic I could go on about. But she's out here clapping back to this buffoon who probably done did fucking unloaded to all of her videos before he decided to do this shit. And she's out here defending it. She's like, nah, I got my rights to do what the fuck I want with my, you know, my thing. Props to Sophie Rain.
School teacher, educating, inspiring, and motivating.
Do you know what, James? Here's what I would say. I've got to.
He's like, you know what? Who are you to fucking? I mean, it's true, bro. Piers Morgan. I wish these smart interviewers, these journalists, would be the good guy more often. Oh, I gotta pee. Can we watch one more video? I think we should. Hold on, give me a sec. Oh. All right. Let's watch one more video. Oh shit. What? Why you tripping? Deactivate. Activate. Yeah, man. What the fuck? Dude. This thing is chilling, bro. Great. Let me move my fucking camera. Can I like refresh? Damn, that was... Dude, that shit is delayed. I deactivated. Oh. Is it back? We're back, baby. Oh shit, Latine. How much was it? Wasn't it? Bitty bitty ba 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 ba. Whatever. Iran's strategy. Iran's decision to allow Iraq passage through the strait. Iran show total control.
Turning now to oil and what the price remains for all of us in terms of gasoline. Let's put C1 up here on the screen. Oil prices actually slid a bit as Trump warns Iran to open the Straits of Hormuz. A lot of this is because of that Barack Ravid report about an alleged peace deal that may or may not happen. But it does, of course,
I can't believe they still buy this crap.
I don't know. I mean, it's still, I mean, look, it slid a bit by 2%. It's still at $108 a barrel, all right? And you can see very clearly, like, the crude oil price is about $110 a barrel as we are recording. The Brent oil price is about $108. I mean, both of these are still astronomically higher than when everything began. It's really only the surprise that it's only $108 or $110 per barrel. Put C2 up there on the screen also to show that Trump's market manipulation is alive and well. NASDAQ futures rise on ceasefire efforts. They're hoping and they're coping, even though Iran has already rejected it. But the average price of gas remains on track for nightmare scenarios. Let's go to the next one. This is from AAA and their map of the national gas prices. The current AAA national average of gas in the United States is $4.11 a gallon. Now, already, that's really bad. But if you'll notice when you're watching, all of the states that are in red where the price remains very high. So in California, what is that, 14% of our population, $5.92 a gallon. Diesel is going in San Francisco for $8 a gallon, well over $5 in a couple of different states, Washington, Nevada, approaching $5 in Arizona, in Alaska, in Washington, or in Hawaii, $5.50 a gallon. Florida is already like $4.20 a gallon. Illinois, $4.29 a gallon. Pennsylvania is $4.15. Virginia, where we are, $4.06. So it's below $4 a gallon in some of the states, which are much closer to the refineries, like Texas remains at $3.82. But the fact remains, like, we are well on track for a sustained gas shock that is going to at least keep us above $3 a gallon well into the foreseeable future. And at the very least, in the next few months, we're going to be hovering in this price. And right now, the average price of diesel in the United States is $5.61 a gallon, the all-time high from...
I heard somebody say yesterday why the price is so high, why the gas price is so high. And then the other person said, oh, because the Strait of Hormuz is closed. And then he said, but don't worry, Trump is working on opening it up again. And I didn't say anything because I was eating pancakes. But if I would have said something, I would have said, that's not going to matter. That's not going to change a goddamn thing. The gas prices are going to be up for so long after this. It's what I keep hearing, so I don't know. I don't know if that's an actual good take. I think you were going to call it though, bro. It's fucking late.
This was June of 2022, is $5.81 a gallon for diesel. So we are only 20 cents off the all-time high, and many gas and diesel analysts are projecting that the U.S. will cross the coveted $6 diesel threshold, which arguably that's just as bad as gas because it shows up in food inflation, in trucked goods. It will wipe the margin for any of the independent truckers. We're already looking at those stories. At $5 diesel, they were really getting screwed. At $6, $7, and I mean, can you imagine paying $8 a gallon for diesel? That's insane. In San Francisco, that could be our future. It really could. Where that would be, I don't know, maybe $7, $6.50 nationally. That would be like $10 in San Francisco or in some of the other major metropolitan areas in California. So it's a genuine nightmare. And this is not even shortages. Right now, it's just price. We could end up in a shortage scenario, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Absolutely. And CNBC has this report this morning about how the U.S.-Iran war tax is beginning to hit American businesses and consumers. They talk about the co-founder of the college hunks hauling junk and moving business. And he's talking, listen, mortgage rates are high, so people are moving, period. And then I also have to deal with the fact that diesel is so costly. So, I mean, these businesses are already getting screwed. And of course, they're going to pass what cost of that they can on to consumers. You already see that. They detail also in this story, United Airlines and JetBlue both raised prices on baggage this week to try to cope with the increased jet fuel cost. Amazon announced a 3.5% fuel surcharge on their sellers. Now, again, their sellers will try to pass that on to consumers as much as they possibly can. Amazon described the surcharge as meaningfully lower than levies applied by other major carriers in a statement to CNBC. So this is where we are already. We're now 5 weeks.
All I got to say is we are getting royally fucked with all of this. And by we, I mean the working class, the proletariat. We are getting fucked with sand. There's no other way to put it. You can't tell me otherwise. Because it's the objective truth that we are just, it's so infuriating because again, no consequences to the people who started this. The working people who are supposed to put these people in charge to help make our lives better, they are doing nothing. They're sitting back, hanging out. It's just, goddamn, fucking. Dropped frames. Oh, shit. That's what it is. Anyway, I don't really. YMCA. It's hard to say. Go. YMCA. Oh, wait. Am I tripping? Oh shit! I know where I fucked up. I was supposed to do this, not that. Oops. I wanted to have this. I wanted to talk this close to the mic, but whoops. Because I wanted it. Yeah. Yeah, we as the working class, we as the average everyday Joes, we who are supposed to vote in people who are supposed to take care of us, are supposed to have our same interest. We, the people, are the ones who are getting royally fucked with all of this. Our government is supposed to work for us. Yet they are the cause of our struggles. You may not want to believe it because we've been taught that to not rely on your government, which is bullshit. Governments are made to help us. But in this case, they've been fucking us with sand for so many years. And I don't know if the American people are going to do anything about it.
Into this war. Trump says, various things at various times, but he seems to have this idea, oh, we'll wrap it up in 2 weeks. I don't know how, but even if you take his word for that, I think you've got...
We're done. This fucking computer's tripping.